I doubt many will wish to exchange Alduin's lordship for the tyranny of Paarthurnax's Way of the Voice.
Paarthurnax is one of the most immediately recognizable characters from Skyrim, and has left players with his titular dilemma for nearly 15 years now. Can you forgive someone for their past misdeeds? But with that question in mind, who is Paarthurnax? Is he someone worth trusting in the first place? Is he truly the friend and mentor that he appears to be? Or is there something more sinister at work behind his wizened, kind demeanor? Today we'll be going through and analyzing Paarthurnax's character. I'll be playing a bit of devil's advocate here too, since I do think that there is a more sinister subtext to this character that often goes overlooked because the blades are just so unlikable. So please feel free to listen with that in mind. We will obviously be tackling the issues of the Paarthurnax dilemma, but like all of my biography type videos, we'll want to start with an understanding of the history of this character within the world of Tamriel before we go any further. For starters, Paarthurnax is, importantly, a dragon, or a dove, or Dovah in the Draconic language. And if we ask him more about himself, he'll tell us that
the Dove are children of Akatosh.
And with Akatosh being the god of time, that makes Paarthurnax extremely old. With some extra help from reading the fragmented Shalador's insights, we see that dragons have existed since the beginning of time, as some kind of kindred spirits to crossed out text. Either a lesser relation to him or his children, or part of him that split off when time began, or whatever. In the beginning, dragons were wild and uncivilized, like everything else. Alduin was the creator of dragon civilization, the firstborn, and the rest of this paragraph is unknown at this time. So we know that Alduin, as the firstborn of Akatosh, ushered in the Age of Dragons in Skyrim. The dragon cult would become the predominant religion in Skyrim, and the dragons, whose immortal souls could return through time itself, and their loyal dragon priests would lord over the lowly Atmorans and eventually Proto-Nords that migrated to Skyrim. To quote from the Dragon War, "Dragons being dragons, embraced their role as god-kings over men. After all, were they not fashioned in Akatosh's own image? Were they not superior in every way to the hordes of small, soft creatures that worshipped them? For dragons, power equals truth. They had the power, so therefore it must be truth. Dragons granted small amounts of power to the dragon priests in exchange for absolute obedience. In turn, the dragon priests ruled men as equals to the kings. Dragons, of course, could not be bothered with actually ruling. In Atmora, where Ysgramor and his people came from, the dragon priests demanded tribute and set down laws and codes of living that kept peace between dragons and men. In Tamriel, they were not nearly as benevolent. It's unclear if this was due to an ambitious dragon priest, or a particular dragon, or a series of weak kings. Whatever the cause, the dragon priests began to rule with an iron fist, making virtual slaves of the rest of the population. When the populace rebelled, the dragon priests retaliated. When the dragon priests could not collect the tribute or control the masses, the dragon's response was swift and brutal. So it was, the Dragon War began. And during this time, Paarthurnax served not only as Alduin's brother, his kin, but also as his chief lieutenant, his right-hand man in the Dragon War.
Paarthurnax was the author of many atrocities during the Dragon War, crimes great enough to be remembered for thousands of years.
And despite Esbern saying so, and even Paarthurnax eventually admitting to it, we don't really know of any evidence of these crimes that he committed during the Dragon War, as Bethesda never wrote any actual account for us, the player, to see. Delphine does tell us that he enslaved the ancient Nords in Skyrim, though.
Here's the big picture. He helped Alduin enslave our ancestors.
And interestingly, we can take a look at his very name for a glimpse into his character.
I forget how little you know of the Dove. Our names are always made up of 3 Rothmulag, words of power. You see, Paarthurnax, a Thu'um. A shout, yes?
All dragon names, or at least most of them, are split into 3 syllables, as each dragon name is itself a dragon shout. For instance, Alduin translates to Destroyer, Devour, Master, which is in accordance with his nature. Now the name of Paarthurnax can be quite revealing as well, with Paarthurnax translating to Ambition, Overlord, Cruelty. Quite a chilling revelation, and one that allows us to assume that Paarthurnax was actually chiefly involved in many awful crimes at this time, with again, cruelty being a literal part of his name. Now obviously in real life, if you named your son Cruelty, that doesn't mean that he's going to grow up to be a cruel person. But if you talk to Paarthurnax about his nature, he says this:
Dov Walan Farel, we were made to dominate. The will to power is in our blood. You feel it in yourself, do you not? No day goes by where I am not tempted to return to my inborn nature.
And if we ask Arngir, was he Alduin's ally, Arngir will respond by saying,
Yes, but understand, during the days of Alduin's rule, all dragons were his allies. There was nothing else they could be.
So there's lots of things pointing to Paarthurnax's past being shady and cruel at best. At worst, Paarthurnax was an enslaver of men, a murderer, and likely all sorts of other things that we unfortunately are not privy to ourselves. Paarthurnax himself states that literally every day he is tempted to return to becoming a conqueror. And this is extremely fitting, as ambition is a prime characteristic of his being, which is frightening since it is often ambition that is the guiding force behind both good and especially evil. So that begs the question, why do people like this guy? Why is there any debate to even be had when Delphine asks you to kill him? Well, let's talk about that. Paarthurnax's redemption is told to us in a few places. The first place you might read about it is recorded on the ancient etched tablets on the 7,000 steps up to High Hrothgar, specifically tablets 1 through 4. Emblem 1. Before the birth of man, the dragons ruled all Mundus. Their word was the voice, and they spoke only for true needs, for the voice could blot out the sky and flood the land. Emblem 2. Men were born and spread over the face of Mundus. The dragons presided over the crawling masses. Men were weak then, and had no voice. Emblem 3. The fledgling spirits of men were strong in old times, unafraid to war with dragons and the voices. But the dragons only shouted them down and broke their hearts. Emblem 4. Kine called on Paarthurnax, who pitied man. Together they taught men to use the voice. Then dragon war raged, dragon against tongue. How accurate of a retelling of the story these tablets are remains to be seen. However, it is known throughout the game that Paarthurnax betrayed Alduin, even by his enemies.
True, he turned traitor to Alduin and helped overthrow the dragon cult, but that does not excuse or expiate his previous deeds.
But why did he do this? Well, interestingly, we don't really have a reason cited other than Kine on the etched tablets. Kine is an extremely important deity in the Nordic pantheon, and is actually the chief deity in this pantheon, rather than the typical gods of Akatosh, Alkosh, Oriel, etc. Children of the Sky claims that Nords consider themselves to be the children of the sky. They call Skyrim the throat of the world, because it is where the sky exhaled on the land and formed them. So, supposing this were all true, it would make quite a bit of sense for Kine to intervene on behalf of her chosen people. Unfortunately, Children of the Sky was heavily retconned out of existence by Elder Scrolls V, and is contradicted by more modern lore about the Nords hailing from Atmora rather than Skyrim, among many other things. One way of rationalizing this line, though, is by saying that Alduin was banished on the throat of the world, and upon his banishment, through Kine's intervention with Paarthurnax, the modern Nord was born. But who knows exactly? This is just a side tangent anyway, and I don't really like running Interception for Bethesda with their muddled lore. So, back to Paarthurnax. Paarthurnax, other than supposedly being influenced by Kine, has no real reason why he aided the men of Skyrim against his brother, or at least not a recorded reason. You can't really even ask him much about the Dragon War, which is, again, more a fault of Bethesda Game Studios than anything else. So again, all evidence points to him having some involvement in the Dragon War on behalf of humankind.
You will see them, Wuthfadon, my friends, Haken, Gormlaith, Feldir. The first mortals that I taught the Thu'um, the first tongues, the leaders of the rebellion against Alduin. They were mighty in their day, even to attempt to defeat Alduin. Sachrot-Hun, the Nords have had many heroes since, but none greater. Yes, there were a few of us that rebelled against Alduin's Thur, his tyranny. We aided the humans in his overthrow.
But without a proper reason for being involved, it leaves much of Paarthurnax's intentions rather hazy, to be honest with you. And from what he himself will tell us, you shouldn't ever trust a dragon. In fact, the ancient Nords themselves did not trust him in their time, the same ones that Paarthurnax referred to as his friends.
But they did not trust us, Ni-Ov. Their inner counsels were kept hidden from us. The Blades are wise not to trust me, Onikan Ni-Ov. I would not trust another Dovah. It is always wise to mistrust a Dovah.
So again, why do people like him? He himself is telling you not to trust him. Well, he has a really well-spoken line that is kind of the entire counter to all of the evil things that he's done in the past.
I have overcome my nature only through meditation and long study of the way of the voice. No day goes by where I am not tempted to return to my inborn nature, Zingrifhorvut se Suyech. What is better, to be born good or to overcome your evil nature through great effort?
And this great effort has taken form in the way of the voice, which was an interpretation of the shouting that was invented by Jurgen Windcaller.
He was a great war leader of the ancient Nords, a master of the voice, or tongue. After the disaster at Red Mountain, where the Nord army was annihilated, he spent many years pondering the meaning of that terrible defeat. He finally came to realize that the gods had punished the Nords for their arrogant and blasphemous misuse of the voice. He was the first to understand that the voice should be used solely for the glory and worship of the gods, not the glory of men. Jurgen Windcaller's mastery of the voice eventually overcame all opposition, and the way of the voice was born.
This is not to say that shouting is meant to be inherently for pacifism, as some see, but that the way of the voice must be understood in its relation with the gods, and only forcefully in times of great need. In this way, it was Paarthurnax who taught men how to use the voice at all, and in turn, it was men who taught Paarthurnax the way of the voice. Somewhat paradoxically, though, if it was Jurgen Windcaller who took 7 years to contemplate the complexities of the way of the voice, what did Paarthurnax do to quell his conquering needs in the time in between Jurgen's teachings? Well, we actually do know this. Paarthurnax tells us that he hid himself away on the throat of the world to avoid temptation, essentially. When asked why he lives alone on the throat of the world, he answers,
Evenar Balok, there are many hungers it is better to deny than to feed. Drechni Nakib, discipline against the lesser, aids in Kachnar, denial of the greater.
So it is through sheer willpower and dedication that Paarthurnax is able to deny his will to become ambition overlord cruelty once more. But then that begs another question. Does Paarthurnax's willingness to change absolve him of the punishment for his past actions? And is his question about becoming good even valid? So famously at this point, in the main plot of Skyrim, if you would like to continue working with the Blades, Delphine and Esbern present you with the infamous Paarthurnax dilemma. You either kill Paarthurnax, or you are not allowed to work with the Blades any further until you do. And to be honest, I think their arguments are often looked over because people don't like Delphine. But listen to what she says.
Here's the big picture. He helped Alduin enslave our ancestors. He may have betrayed Alduin in the end, but that makes him worse, not better. We can't afford to give Paarthurnax the opportunity to betray us in turn and return to his old master.
Now, we know that this is not true. If you side with Paarthurnax, then he does help you kill Alduin. Hell, he even fights alongside you in your first battle with Alduin on the Throat of the World.
God damn it, dude. This boss fight sucks.
But I do understand her justification. She's basically saying that if Paarthurnax betrayed his side once, what's to stop him from doing it again? And then Esbern comes in with a statement about his previous crimes.
Whether or not he has truly repented or merely acted to save himself, justice demands that he pay with his life.
They both don't just say that Paarthurnax committed crimes and that he should be killed for it. Obviously, that's a huge part of it. However, their greater point is that Paarthurnax is not to be trusted. He's a betrayer. Esbern throws out the idea that perhaps he was not truly reformed, but has just been biding his time, waiting at the throat of the world for Alduin to return. And with Alduin now fully gone, there's no one to stop him from ushering in a new regime. At the time of Alduin's death, Paarthurnax is seen as the now eldest dragon in Tamriel, as Odahviing refers to him as the Old One in Dragon tongue.
Kuza Wundana wa Wuthgain. I wish the Old One luck in his quest.
And there's one final thing that has always not sat well with me when it comes to Paarthurnax, and it's this final line he says at the end of the game.
Goran, I feel younger than I have in many an age. Many of the Dovah are now scattered across Kizal. Without Alduin's lordship, they may yet bow to the Vasen, rightness of my Thu'um. But willing or no, they will hear it. Fare thee well, Dovahkim.
And just prior to this interaction, Odahviing will say the following.
I doubt many will wish to exchange Alduin's lordship for the tyranny of Paarthurnax's way of the voice.
So again, that's always been interesting to me, because obviously the way of the voice as a philosophy kind of is an implied pacifism. Only use the voice in times of need. But Odahviing refers to it as a tyranny. And essentially, to dragons, it very well might be. It's somewhat of a revoking of the right to free speech, no? A limitation on the words that may be used in the draconic language and how to use them. With Paarthurnax's revolution, it seems like he's planning to return to his old self, no longer secluded on the throat of the world. He says that the dragons may bow to his Vasen, which is translated as truth. But looking back at the Dragon War for reference, what did the dragons see as truth again? Power. The dragons view truth and power as one and the same. For dragons, power equals truth. So I'm just saying, Paarthurnax running out there, using his status as the Old One, and leaving his mountain, the one place that he sheltered himself away to stave off his hunger, it leaves me feeling curious about his future in the series and his intentions with the world below. I am by no means suggesting that I think that Paarthurnax wants to enslave humanity again, but I do think that potentially his vision for the future of dragonkind may be a regime of suppression more than anything else. Or maybe I'm just being paranoid and reading too far into things. I've been known to do that in the past. And I wanted to end this section talking about his little quote comparing being born good to overcoming your evil nature. He frames it as one being better than the other, which I think is ultimately a misunderstanding of what he's even asking, or just a really convincing piece of rhetoric to get people thinking. In my eyes, there's not really a way to say that one is better than the other, as both of them are good things inherently. But to a utilitarian, for example, overcoming your evil nature through great effort is a huge virtue, since it not only eliminates evil from the world, but it also adds goodness. I made a community post about this actually, and the overwhelming majority of people agreed, saying relatively similar things. The thing that always gets me about Paarthurnax saying this, though, is that he admits that his nature will never truly be overcome. It is a constant battle that he has to deal with every day, and it is a part of his very nature, to conquer and control. Which in and of itself is very interesting because in a way, Paarthurnax spends his time now attempting to conquer and control his nature of conquer and control. A very interesting dilemma for he himself to be a part of. But with all of that established now, what is the proper thing to do when it comes to the past of Paarthurnax? In writing this chapter, I was actually reminded of myself. Skyrim came out when I was 11 years old. I remember buying it from GameStop a few days after Modern Warfare 3 launched only 3 days prior to its release. I was coming off the heels of Oblivion, and I absolutely loved that game as a child. For nostalgia purposes, it's still probably my favorite of the Elder Scrolls games. And let me tell you, when you're an impressionable 5th grader, the Blades are the coolest faction ever. I loved Boris and Joffrey, and all my homies at Cloud Roller Temple, so when I transferred to Skyrim and the Blades were present in the game, I was 100% on their side. And when Delphine told me to kill Paarthurnax, I was like, yeah, that makes sense, he's definitely evil. And I would go on to kill him in many, many playthroughs actually. I would have debates with my classmates who played Skyrim and with my friends about why he deserved to die. And I genuinely believed it. It wasn't until I grew up a little, maybe I was about 14 or so, that's when I finally listened to what Paarthurnax had to say for himself. His lesson about overcoming his evil nature. It spoke to me. And it actually mirrored my own journey in killing Paarthurnax. Maybe I too would be able to overcome my evil nature and give him a chance. Allow him the right to live, and to at the very least, try to become a better being. So with that anecdote out of the way, does Paarthurnax deserve to die? We've heard the Blade side of things, we've heard the Greybeard side of things, and we've heard Paarthurnax's side of things as well. When boiling it all down together, I can't really say that he does deserve to die, but this is up to personal interpretation. In my eyes, I'm not really a big fan of death as a penalty in the first place, to be honest with you. When Esbern and Delphine talk about justice, that I can get behind. But justice in the form of a murder? That seems altogether cruel, which is one of the things that Paarthurnax is being framed for. Yes, he undoubtedly committed crimes against humanity, but by the time of Skyrim, that was like 4,000 plus years ago. Any normal man, and most elves, would be long dead by that point, and their crimes long forgotten. But because Paarthurnax is a dragon, and his soul is immortal, is he meant to be judged by the things he did thousands and thousands of years ago? Potentially. But honestly, it seems like he already has atoned for his sins. He became a friend to mankind. He stowed himself away for their protection, and defended the very spot that he knew his brother, the firstborn of Akatosh, would arrive at. From there, he continued on the teachings of Jurgen Windcaller for generations, providing a peaceful path for the followers of the Voice, and he aided the last Dragonborn in defeating Alduin and saving the world. If it truly was all an act, then Paarthurnax is a master of deception, and he has all of eternity to wait and deceive, which is scary. I honestly do think that an evil Paarthurnax reveal would be quite interesting for Elder Scrolls 6, and as I said, there is something to be looked into with Paarthurnax's post-game philosophy about making the remaining dragons bow to him. But as it's been shown to us so far, I see no reason that Paarthurnax should serve a death sentence for crimes that he has already repented for, and you certainly shouldn't go around killing people just because they have the potential to do great harm. Paarthurnax, in my eyes, has proven himself to be an ally to mankind in the millennia after Alduin's banishment. Is there some selfishness potentially involved in his decision to aid mankind? Maybe, but there can always be selfish reasoning behind kindness. For example, some people may not steal from you, not because they actually don't want to steal from you, but because they know that if they steal from you, they will not be able to be your friend anymore. And maybe they're not your friend at all. maybe they just like to hang out with you because you have a cool VR headset that they like to play with. It's sounding like a personal story now, I promise it's not, but you understand my point, I hope. As a wise person once told me, nice is different than good.
Nice is different than good.
But at the end of the day, I'm not here to tell you what to think. I've laid out my concerns and my thoughts, and tried to provide as many angles to this discussion as I could. Ultimately, the Paarthurnax dilemma is about player choice, actually. There has been a long-standing debate in this community about what to do with Paarthurnax, and most people tend to spare him, and I think that's totally fair. There's also a large community of people who would have liked a peaceful solution to this quest, where Delphine and Esbern can be talked down and reasoned with. But I actually kind of like that there is no peaceful middle ground. In a better RPG, there probably would have been one, don't get me wrong. But because Skyrim is the way it is, it has left this debate binary for a long time, forcing players to grapple with distinct philosophies of justice, redemption, and honestly even the death penalty. And as an Elder Scrolls fan, I'm proud that, overwhelmingly, people have decided to see the good in this dragon, and give him the benefit of the doubt, despite having been given many reasons to distrust him.
Trust your instincts, Dovah. Your blood will show you the way.
With that said, I would love to give a huge shout out to my channel members, all of whom make a huge difference in the production of these videos. It is through your help that I'm able to keep sponsors off of these videos and able to continue to produce entertainment on this platform for you. So, my deepest thanks, as always. Please let me know, have you ever killed Paarthurnax before? Did you learn anything new here? And if so, did it shake up your view on the kindly dragon? If you liked the video, please like, as that is one thing that will absolutely boost the video in the algorithm. There's also that new hype feature, I don't really know what that is. Sharing the video also helps out a bunch, and if you're interested in more that I have to offer, you can check out my homepage where there's tons of other lore and video essay type stuff from Elder Scrolls, Elden Ring, and all sorts of similar things. And if you're really feeling crazy, you could subscribe to stick around for more. I've been Dareloth. Until next time, peace out.